Farlost, created by John Miro. 41. "We've done the impossible twice today," Lou Montaigne said. Her voice echoed across CNC, and she knew it carried across all of HHL6 and reached every ear traveling with her. "A killer storm couldn't kill us. FTL was certain death, only we're not dead." Lou looked around. Rose Okoro and Stan Rennick watched. Lou smiled at them and saw them straighten, smile back. She turned to Beecham. He waved distractedly. "Hallelujah," he barked, but gave her a genuine smile and a nod before diving back into his screens. Lou's throat tightened, remembering the look in Ed Dwyer's eyes when that first rock snuffed out the light that lay behind them. "We've lost friends. We're far from home, but we're still alive. And we've met," she paused. "We've met amazing people. And we're going to beat the odds one more time." Beecham turned back to his screens. Rose and Stan's smiles faltered. Lou sighed and looked up and out the window, letting her eyes catch the glitter of ships clouding space near the spikes of the thorn behind them. "You don't need the inspirational speech about meeting new forms of life, advancing human understanding. You're living it. You've seen the thorn, the ships, the incredible beings. All amazing, breathtaking, world-changing. But right now, we all just need to do our jobs, even if that means buttoning down and waiting. Panic can kill us before anything around these parts ever gets a chance." She waited a moment, then laughed over the line, letting her focus, her dedication to them, her faith in them, color the laughter. "Nothing's beaten us yet. We've gone through hell, and we're still here. Let's keep it that way. Man your stations no matter what comes. We've got a plan, we've got the training, and we are going to pull this off." She took a deep breath. "Remember your training. Stick together. We'll talk again when we're in the wind. CNC out." She tapped the microphone off. Not bad for a first rousing ship-wide address, she thought, as she reached back with a trembling hand to buckle into her seat again. She hoped to hell her first emergency address was also her last. "Status," she called out. Beecham talked over Okoro, and Lou held up a hand to her nav officer to let the civilian speak. "Well, you haven't asked me for a miracle in a while," Beecham said, crossing his arms and looking pleased with himself. "So I thought I'd remind you I'm still in the business." Lou raised an eyebrow and waited. Beecham tapped on a screen. "Say hi, Daisy." "Hello, Commander Montaigne," said the strangely warm but inhuman voice from all around. Lou's eyes narrowed. The voice seemed different from where she'd heard it before. How, she wondered. "I must correct Dr. Beecham," the voice announced. "I am not precisely Daisy. I am, however, an exact digital pollination." Warning bells climbed up Lou's spine. "Beecham?" she queried, her voice low and dangerous. Beecham took no heed. "It might take me a day or two, to learn an entire alien language and begin upgrading whatever Daisy is." "You possess genius, Dr. Beecham. However, your improving on my design remains unlikely," Daisy called out, with obvious humor and skepticism. Beecham ignored the interruption. "So since we're up against it," he waved his hand in the direction of the thorn, "I had her send me the program interfaces she designed to control the Betty, improved them a little, and showed her where on 6 to stick a copy of herself." Lou gripped the arms of her chair, eyes widening. "You injected an alien computer virus in our systems," gasped Okoro. "Essentially correct, Nav Officer Rose Okoro, Employee ID October 228653, Daisy replied, while Beecham floated there nodding, now looking even more smug. "Interfacing with your systems directly has increased the odds of a successful dock and turning maneuver to 87%. "Gave her the keys to the kingdom," Beecham crowed. "Pretty goddamn impressive hack." The CNC was utterly silent. Until Lou laughed. Beecham frowned. What? That was pretty goddamn impressive. And after we dock and execute the course change, Okoro snapped out at the man, how do we, weed her out? You're welcome, Beecham called petulantly out to Okoro. And we don't remove Daisy. We can't. Well, we can ask her to leave, but she's already rewritten half the systems on board. For the better, might I add, he shrugged. If she doesn't want to leave, we won't get her out. Lou laughed harder. She gasped for breath, waving Okoro silent. He's right, Nav. We're all in. We better hope we're philosophically compatible with our neighbors on the Betty, because we're just about getting married to haul ass out of this ugly thing's gravity. She waved back and up toward the Thorn. Lou snorted again, just as Arnel Villanueva's voice sounded in the air. First officer to CNC. Now en route with Officer Taggart. His breath pushed air explosively as the man leaned too close to his suit mic. Sanders cleared Taggart for active duty. Officer Pruitt will escort Burkov and Dr. Sanders to the cellar. Taggart could be heard on the line, muttering, Yeah, just as soon as the doc decides on the best meds for VP Crazy Pants. The line clicked off, muted from the far side. Montaigne almost laughed again. She liked hearing that resilience in Taggart's voice. She still didn't understand how, but the lights did something to him. Now he could see things, know things the rest of them couldn't, and it had messed him up. He sounded like Taggart again, even knowing more than he should. Her gut instinct said to trust Taggart, trust Captain Travis, and trust whatever the hell Daisy was. Why not? She'd trusted Beecham. That was why they were still alive. Speaking of which, she turned to Beecham, where he floated quite capably, pirouetting between two workstations to maximize his screen area. She shook her head. The good doctor seemed to forget what a klutz he was once he was absorbed in a task, or two, as he was now, recalibrating his light show and monitoring their trajectory. Or, she wondered, was that now monitoring Daisy, monitoring their trajectory? Thinking of Beecham's physical and mental acrobatics brought Lou's head back around to the crisis at hand, and she swiped and tapped on her screen, calling up Travis and Gruber, and throwing their signal to the fisheye monitor in the center of CNC. A fisheye view of the Betty's bridge appeared on several monitors, ringing the CNC. Captain Travis, Engineer Gruber, your transmission is being displayed to my senior command staff, and they're all up to speed. The scarred but handsome captain nodded. Hello, CNC, he called out. Gruber laughed and scratched at his ragged white beard. They're babies! Well, except for the engine. Beecham stiffened and turned. How many degrees do you have, old man? He shouted back. Gruber laughed harder. Yeah, babies. Lou waved Beecham down. Dirty, hippie Santa Claus, he muttered, then just glared. What can you tell us about these boomer ships? She asked. Captain Travis opened his mouth to answer, but Daisy's voice cut him off, both the version on Betty and the version on 6. Boomers are attack vessels, essentially barbell-shaped torpedoes. The craft possess heavy shielding at either end to withstand kinetic energy release by thermonuclear pellets, which are ignited immediately behind or in front of a heat shield. Utilizing atomics to quickly achieve and break from very high velocity, a small crew housed in the middle is kept safe from the effects of the velocity inside a nearly incompressible liquid environment. The boomer crew's lungs are filled with liquid so they're not smeared into paste by acceleration or deceleration, Travis explained. His face was dark. The trip still messes them up, but they're fed a cocktail of drugs to keep them functioning until they accomplish their mission. Lou opened her mouth to ask, but Gruber anticipated her question. It's a one-way trip, the old engineer said. They're kamikazes. Their nestmates will be elevated in rank, social status, food allotment, mating order. Captain Travis cleared his throat. They're a blunt object, but effective. They keep most ships they reach from escaping until the rest of the guard can arrive. They'll decimate a crew, sabotage engines, but leave most of the tech intact. Lou saw the logic in it. She already understood that this place, wherever they were, was resource poor. Killing the crews was probably just cost-effective for this guard. She had a sick feeling there was nothing like the Geneva Convention around these parts. "What the hell's gonna come out of that pod?" Stan asked. Lou turned to quiet Stan and saw Rose slip a hand over his where he held onto her screen mount. He looked down, read her face, and fell silent. Travis and Gruber both stepped back, and behind them Lou could see a cylinder of light inside which shapes were coalescing. She felt one eyebrow rise, betraying her surprise. It was a hologram tank, easily the best resolution she'd ever seen, and over 10 meters wide. "I'm also transmitting this to your pilot Rodriguez at the tram. I hope she's receiving, but 8 minutes ago backscatter from several satellites dropped by the boomers began to interrupt our tight beam transmission. The crew can tell her all of this anyways." "Just watch," Gruber said, uncharacteristically softly. In the hollow, an image of a room full of cylindrical cargo containers appeared. A blue light flared rhythmically. There was no sound. A human and 2 other figures, something like upright 8-foot-tall lobsters, Lou's mind filled in, all wearing what appeared to be bulky black armor and holding long poles, rifles, Lou's mind guessed again, took up kneeling positions facing the wall behind the cargo. 2 more humans and 2 more things that looked like mannequins made up of bark and leaves and vine, all wearing armor and carrying the pole weapons, took up position just below the camera angled high up on a wall facing the cargo. "A boomer can contain up to 6 troops," Captain Travis replied, as the cargo in the hologram shook and piles collapsed into rubble. Something hard had just hit the wall. "Initial scans now show we had 9 incoming," Gruber interrupted. 3 exploded en route. No surprise there, they're powered by nukes, for God's sake. Usually only half make it to the target. His voice got quiet. "That's usually enough." Lou leaned forward in her seat. The door hissed, and Arnell and Taggart coasted in. Both men watched the monitors silently as red outlines appeared on the wall. The air seemed to waver with intense heat. Several of the cargo pods exploded, and white steam obscured the view. Behind the cloud, there was an explosion. Metal hurled through the steam, leveling half the defenders. Something long and thick like a boa snake whipped through the white mist. "They're loaded up with anti-rads, of course, but also strength maximizers and microscopic machines to repair damage and keep them moving," Gruber said casually. "It's an ugly kind of nanotech. Does more harm to a body than good over time, but in the short term, it creates..." Several more tentacles appeared through the fog. Then a massive black shape pushed through, whipping black tentacles larger than a man, ugly mouth full of glassy fangs like cruel knives. More bodies fell as the creatures fed. "Monsters," Lou gasped. Farlost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com. Hi, John Miro here. Farlost is brought to you by my backers at Patreon. Patronage starts at $1 a month, or about 25 cents a cliffhanger. Patreon.com. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your support.